everyone. This is Haven Ditko, and I am a Second Life creator and teacher. I love to teach things about creating stuff for Second Life. And I teach a lot of people Blender. The basics of Blender is something that a lot of people are interested in. It always seems so hard to do. But after you learn the basics and you use those simple tools quite a bit, it's time to start getting a little more detailed with what you're doing. And to get detailed and to do it without getting frustrated, it's really nice to know some of the little quick tips that a creator or a modeler would use. So a little bit of the workflow thinking is always fun to see. So I thought I would start with something nice and simple like this zipper pull here. This is just 3 simple pieces all put together, and it looks pretty nice. So I'm going to go into a fresh layer here. I'm going to go into front view, and I'm going to make sure that I'm in ortho as well. So front view is 1, ortho is 5 on your number pad. Using Shift and C to center my cursor, I'm going to go ahead and use Shift and A to add a mesh cube. This cube is really big, and we're going to create a big zipper pull, but we're going to scale it down when we're done. There's really no sense in making it small to begin with. So S and Y, so I can scale it along the Y axis to start with. And back into front view, I'm going to go into edit mode by hitting my tab key. Something I want to demonstrate as well is that right now I have ortho off, which means I can actually see through the mesh. I can see the edges and the verts behind it. With ortho on, you're limited to the view that you're looking at. So I like to turn that off because I make a lot of selections that go through the mesh. I'm also going to be going between vertex mode, edge select, and face select. Those are easily gotten to with the 3 buttons here at the bottom of your screen. This one is vertex select, you have edge select, and face select. We'll start with vertex. So with nothing selected, I'm going to use Control and R and create an edge loop here. Hovering over the edge gives me that ability. And if I scroll my mouse wheel upward, 1 click, I can get 2 edge loops. I can left mouse click to confirm those 2, and then I can right mouse click to snap them centered. Control R allows me to do the same thing along the side. So I have now my edge loops that I need. I'm going to shape this, so deselecting everything, using my B, which is box select or border select, to select the top center face there, as you can see. I'm just going to pull that up on the Z axis. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to deselect everything with A, B to box or border select the bottom sides, and scale those in on the X axis. Whoops. There we go. I'm going to also deselect everything, select the 4 center ones, and I'm just going to scale those in on the X as well a little bit. There we go. So this is our basic shape. It's a little wide for me still, so S and X and pull that all in a little bit. So there we have a nice start to our shape. Let's go ahead and start giving this a little detail. So deselecting everything, I'm going to go into side view here with the number 3 on my number pad. Control R, and I'm going to give myself 6 edge loops. So I'm going to just give 5 for a second. Okay, there's 5. And I'm going to left mouse click to confirm that number. Well, when I right mouse click and they're centered and I think, oh, I wanted 6, not 5 of them, I can hit F6 above my keys to pull up the operators panel, and here actually allows me to change that number of cuts even after I've confirmed the tool. So I put 6 there, and now I've got exactly what I need. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the two outside edges by using Alt right mouse click and Alt right, there we go. And let me go ahead and select all the way around. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select the other side as well. Alright, now with those selected, if I work on the front, I can work on the back as well. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to scale these in a little, but not on the Y axis. I want them to come inward and downward, but not back and forth. So I'm going to hit S, hold shift and press Y, and that takes off the Y axis. And I'm going to scale those in just a tiny bit, just enough to give me a little bit of a bevel effect, and that's what I wanted. I'm going to then deselect everything, selecting the two inner edge loops here. You see that? I am also going to scale that in on the X and the Y, or X and the Z. So actually, I'm not going to scale it in on the Z. I'm only going to scale it in on the X. So S and X, and bring that in a little bit. There we go. That's good. I can scale it in just a little bit on the Z now. So scale Z just a little. Not too much. Just a tiny dent at the top. And of course my mouse is not going to cooperate with my head. Okay, there we go. So just enough to give it a little bit of a difference. And you can even take these two now and scale them apart on the Y axis to widen that up. Not too much, but a little bit. There we go. And that starts to give us a nice shape for our background. The one thing that we do want to do is, if you look at this, how about if we put a subsurf modifier on it? It's actually subdivision surface, but subsurf is what they call it for short. So that's not so bad. And one more thing that we can do is we can turn on smooth shading. And there we have a really nice start to our zipper pull. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so back into front view now. The next thing I'm going to do is add that little part that holds the pull onto it. So let's go ahead and use, and again, my cursor, I want to make sure it's centered. Shift and A for another cube. And in side view about, I'm going to, of course, S and Y for the thickness. And I probably want this about as thick as my base part is, but again, this is just going to be something that you decide, because there are so many types of zipper pulls out there, a number of designs. Alright, so I'm going to leave it right there about that size, and then I'm going to scale it in on the X, and let's say I want it about that thick. That's good. Into edit mode, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some edge loops so that I can get a shape here that I want. I do think that this is a little bit long, so deselecting everything and box selecting or border selecting the bottom, and just pull that up a little bit. Okay, so now some edge loops. Let's go ahead and we'll just do two at a time. So Control R, and we have two of them. Snap them to the center, and I am going to scale them on the Z axis away from each other like that. And I'm going to pull them a little, no, not yet. Let's put that one back. Okay, so let's go ahead and do two more edge loops. And these ones, I will pull forward a little bit like that. maybe a little bit more. A little more even. Control R for an edge loop here. Pull that out a little. Control R. Like I said, every zipper pull is going to be different, so we don't have to have anything specific. Alright, and that's good. Now let me show you a little trick to getting this lined up perfectly with this piece, which isn't always easy because this is in edit mode and this is an object and they're separate. I could join them and then work with it, but this is a nice trick to learn. So I am going to go ahead and click on my base and go into edit mode, and I'm just going to choose one of the front vertices there. Shift and S pulls up my snap menu and I can snap my cursor to the selection. So now my cursor is around that vertex. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go into object mode on this piece, edit mode on this one, and I am going to border select the front, or the back of it, the top and the bottom, and I'm going to come down to my pivot point. And this pivot point allows me to move things based on where something else is. So I'm going to move it based on where my cursor is. And you'll see that my manipulation widget goes here around the cursor. And let me deselect that. I've got too much of it. Okay, and now along the y-axis, because that's where these two come together along the y, I'll hit S, Y, 0, and you'll see it moved over just a little bit. So again, S, Y, 0, enter. And now these edges here are lined up perfectly with the front of this piece. There's no gap there at all. It's directly on top of it. Okay, so that piece is actually done. We can give this some more detail if we wanted to. We could add an edge loop as well. So Control R. Let's give it 3 edge loops. And this middle one, well, actually we'll do all 3 at first. We're going to scale them, but not on the x-axis. So S, hold Shift, press X, and I can scale those out a little. I can select just the center one and hit S, Shift X, although that doesn't matter because it's one edge. And so I now have a little bit rounded there. I can take these two and these two, and I can scale those in on the X a little. Oh, let's see, S and X. Oh, one thing that you have to make sure that you do, once you use your cursor, you change your pivot point, always change it back. And median point is the one that we use by default. So now when I do S and X, it should actually work out right. There we go. Bring that in a little, and then I'll grab these ones and I'll bring those in on the X, just not as far as the first ones. Alright, back into object mode. It's looking pretty good. Let's see what happens when we give this a subdivision modifier as well. And we'll give it some smooth shading. And that's looking pretty good. You can see that that edge is right there along that one. And honestly, that might not be good enough for what we're doing. So let's just go ahead and grab it. So G on the y-axis, and let's just nudge it over into the actual mesh a little bit, or into the base. And I think I kind of like that one, maybe a little more to there. Okay, so that's good. The last piece that we have left is the part that hangs down the front. So again, let's put our cursor in the center, Shift and A for a mesh cube. I'm going to scale this one way down on the Z axis. Whoops. Maybe about something like that. I'm going to scale it in on the Y as well. And let's scale this a little more on the Y so that it fits comfortably inside. And we can just kind of temporarily place it where we think we're going to want it to be. And we can actually adjust this as much as we want afterwards. So we'll just put it there for now. Back into front view, let me scale this down on the X now. So right about there I think is good. Alright, so now let's go ahead and go into edit mode, and we are going to give this some edge loops. So Control R, we'll give it 2, confirm those, and we're going to scale them apart on the X axis. There we go, nice and even. Now I want to extrude down the faces on the bottom outside, but if I choose this face and then this face, you'll see what happens is the center gets selected, and that's not what I want. So let's go into actual face select mode, select those two faces, and come back into front view, right? So now we can take these two, hit E for extrude. Whoops. So E for extrude, and then hit Z to make sure that they're coming down straight. You see I can't move them sideways. And I'm going to bring them down just underneath the bottom of this holder here. Alright, I'm going to hit E for extrude on the Z again, and I'm going to bring them down about that far. And actually I want these probably to be about the same size as this, and so I don't think I want them any thicker than that right now. So I'm just going to do a border select here and pull, whoop, let me deselect those. Let me pull this down just a little bit. There we go. And now let me show you another trick. If I select this face and this face and use delete faces, I'm left with a hole on each side. Well, I can Alt right click on that opening, Alt Shift right click on this one, and then use Control E for the edges menu, and you'll see here bridge edge loop, and it will create a bridge between the two. And I don't have that face in between to give me any kind of trouble, okay, or extra geometry. Now I'm going to go back into face select, so this one and that one, and I will again extrude on the Z axis about here, and maybe S and X to pull them out on the X, E for extrude along the Z to about here, and S and X to pull those out as well. E and Z again to about here. Maybe I'll pull those out a tiny bit, like that. E and Z again. Whoops. Now, I do not know why I'm not going along my Z only. That was a little odd. Okay, so let's take this up about here, and we'll scale them in on the Z. E for extrude, Z. It says it's on the Z, there we go. And scale them in a little bit like that. And I think we're starting to get there. So now let's see. Let's do one more little one. So E and C right here, and scale those in. And now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to select this face and this one, and I'm going to delete faces and vertex select. I'll select this edge opening and this one. Control E for bridge edge loops. And I kind of like that. That's not so bad. Okay, so now let's go ahead and I'm going to give the inside here a little bit of a pull. So let me show you another little trick that we use a lot. I'm going to select those 4 verts and these 4, and those are the ones that are in the back. If you look, those are the back ones. And hit F for face. Then I can select the 4 in the front. And there's tons of ways of doing this. I'm just trying to show a few little keys that we like to use. So there's those ones, and hit F for face again. I could have done bridge edge loops as well, like I did on the bottom by deleting these faces, but I didn't want to have edges going across this piece here. I want this to be flat. And so now I can select these 4, which are the top 4, and hit F. And I can select the bottom 4 and hit F for fill as well. So now all of those are, they're pretty nice. They're done there. Alright, this one here, I think, yeah, I like that. Okay. So let me go ahead and I'm going to select all the way around this one. Oh, wrong one. And for here, I'm going to hit I, and I is my inset tool, and that allows me to pull all these faces in a little bit with an edge between them. And I'm going to scale this down on the Z, the selection. There we go. And then I can hit E for extrude on the Y axis, and I can push that in a little bit, maybe something like that. And that's actually looking pretty good. I can do the back as well if I want to, but we'll just leave that for now. You can get that done. You could also do that down here at the bottom. Sometimes what these are nice for, these kinds of details, is let's say that you want to put a logo on something. This gives you a nice place to do it. How about if instead of extruding that inward, we just go ahead and pull this out a little bit instead. Like that. And again, you can design these any way that you want to. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. This is just a few little tips on how to maybe begin to think about modeling something that you want to make. So I'm going to go back into object mode. I'll go ahead and I'll give this a subdivision as well, and turn on smooth shading, and there we go. We have ourselves a nice little zipper pull. This here I might shape a little bit differently with the subsurf on it. This might be either not rounded enough or too rounded, but you can always come into this one, and let's just say we want to put a cut here. We could subdivide these if we want to, this face. We could use a loop cut here, like that. You see it goes there, and we can maybe deselect that there. Pull this down a little bit. kind of like the way it looks when it's a little rounder, I think. And I can do one up here at the top. Deselect these extra ones. Oh wait, no, I wanted that one. And pull that up in front view so I can see what I'm doing. You can make this longer or shorter. It's up to you. You could make it anything that you wanted to. And maybe I'll give this a loop cut here. Pull that down. It's fun to play the subserve on. You play with those sides and stuff. And again, I'm getting a little more detailed here than a zipper pull really needs to be. But it is fun once you get something made to kind of start tweaking it around and getting that detail going. So anyways, there you have it. There is a zipper pull, fast and easy, and create it all on your own, and even a place for a logo or a trademark or anything that you like. One last tip is that when you do get ready to export this, you may scale it down, so we can just go ahead and join these three pieces together with Control J, and the faces are probably a little weird on that one. So if I scale this all down, I could have a lot of problems when it comes to importing it or exporting it. And that's because I've changed the size dramatically on this, and I've changed the rotation, not too much of the rotation, but yeah, the size dramatically. And so what you want to do is use Control and A and apply the scale here. And let me show you what that is real quick. This default size right now, you can see is 0.04, 0.004 there, and 0.038. We want this to equal 1. We want this to be the default size. Right now it's saying it's much smaller than the default size is. And so if we hit Control A, watch the numbers change over there. They all go to 1. So it's no longer smaller than its default size. It is now the true default size of this zipper. And that's going to really make a difference on things like unwrapping and your upload into Second Life. Anyways, there you go. Have fun with it, and happy creating.